Welcome back. We are now on to Chapter 5, Section 3, one of my favorites, one of Mrs. Bannis's.
Least favorites, which is why Mr. Loebner is going to take the lead. So for any of you who question my historical knowledge, it's not that I don't know what I'm talking about, it's just that I don't care to know what this section is about. How's that?
You know who you are. That's
you
good.
know who you are.
All right, so we're going to start with the 30 Years' War, which is one of the few wars that actually lasted.
I was just going to
to
say 30 years.
It's not like the 100 Years' War, which was 114.
I was just going to say it was a little bit longer.
Yeah.
They kind of round up or round down, depending.
Exactly. So this war is, it starts off as a war over religion, the Catholics and the Protestants, but it's also a war about territory and the balance of power, because Europe is so small, yet there's so many powerful countries there. So most of the fighting took place in modern-day Germany, although back then it's a bunch of different states.
I was just going to say we haven't talked too much about Germany, but this is our introduction to that.
Talk a lot about Germany in the months to come.
Exactly.
which
World
will be
War.
good.
Yeah, I would say World War I, World War II. We're trying to get there, guys, as quickly as possible.
That's right. So all of the participants were the major and minor European powers. It was a very destructive war. Famine, which means starvation, disease. The armies would loot. That's how they used to get paid back then. The countries wouldn't pay them. They would say, go get your booty.
Yeah, get your get, pirate's booty.
Yeah.
Great snack.
And, of course, widespread death. So here's a map of Europe in 1618. Spain.
Looks about the same as it does today.
France the same. England the same. Italy's not united yet. And these are all those German states that are not going to be united until about 1870.
I like
Poland,
this map.
Oh, yeah. Took me months to find it.
Really?
And this is Eastern
Impressive.
Europe. We'll get to that later. Okay, so religion sparks the war, Mrs. Bannis.
Oh, yes, the Peace of Augsburg. We talked about this. I don't know if you guys remember, but when we were doing the Renaissance and Reformation, the term Protestant, what term do you hear in that? What do you see in that? Protestant.
Protest.
Yes, a lot of people say Protestant, talking about the German rulers, the princes wanted to fight for having their own religion within their own territory. And so the Peace of Augsburg was the agreement that sort of let these German rulers choose their religion to try to stop some of that fighting.
But 63 years later,
Uh-oh.
the Holy Roman Empire closed some of these Protestant churches, the Lutheran churches. The Protestants revolted, and the 30 Years' War began.
Okay.
So Ferdinand II was the leader of the Holy Roman Emperor. Are they Catholics or Protestants?
Let me see. Where are we? Holy Roman? I don't know. Roman Catholic, maybe?
There you go.
All
Nice
right.
job.
Nice.
So, in the beginning, the armies from Spain and Austria will crush the Protestant troops.
What do you mean crush? Like step on them?
Literally.
Literally.
And a huge army of 125,000 men were paid by robbing and plundering villages, and they're just going to decimate Europe. 2,000 castles in Germany alone were destroyed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
20,000 small towns were burnt to the ground. It was a vicious battle. So the early battles were won by the Habsburgs.
Sorry, guys, don't know if you noticed, but we were interrupted. But what I was going to say was, thinking of the Habsburgs, I feel like this section we start to see those royal families coming out and the battles between like the Habsburgs and all these different groups from all these different countries. You know, we'll see the War of the Roses and all of these family struggles.
That's right.
So pretty interesting stuff coming up.
We haven't talked about Sweden too much. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed people.
Oh, Swedish meatballs are so good.
Meatballs. So they're going to send an army of 23,000 to drive the Habsburgs out of northern Germany. The Swedes are Protestants. And the French are going to jump in and join the side of the Protestants. And this is big because
I was just going to say, France has historically been a Catholic country. So to join the Protestants seems a little odd, but...
So they're choosing power over...
their religion.
So
Yes.
that's a big shift in politics. And the war is going to wrap up with the Peace of Westphalia 30 years later. New peace method. All sides will meet to decide the terms of peace, which we still do today.
So representatives from those different countries will get together and look at what was going on and try to come up with, hopefully, a plan that everybody's happy with.
That's right. It's the last religious war in Europe, and the Protestants were victorious. So Spain and Austria become weaker. France gets German territory. That's going to come into play in World War I and World War II. They're going to go back and forth, taking land from each other. German princes will become independent of the Holy Roman Empire, and the European countries are going to recognize each other as equal independent states.
And if you kind of remember from 5.2 with King Louis, he made France one of the most powerful countries in Europe at the time. So
there's Europe after 1648. Really briefly, we'll talk about Prussia and Austria. I'll try to keep this to a couple minutes.
Sounds like Russia.
That's right, but it's actually a German people.
Yeah.
And Prussia was devastated in the 30 Years' War. They want to have a strong army. So they start the idea of taxing people permanently, and they can always pay for an army. Now it's something that happens in all countries.
No taxation without representation. That's
Well,
what I
that
always
comes later.
say.
King Frederick II, a.k.a. Frederick the Great, was the most famous Prussian king, and he was known for a great military, strong army, but also some reforms, which we'll get to in Chapter 6. So there's Prussia, the largest of the German states, very expansive, and these are the other German states
I didn't realize how many
around it.
there were. Was it 16 or 17?
Oh, I can't count that high. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there
17.
it is.
In Austria, which neighbors Germany, and the people of Austria actually speak German, the Emperor Charles II was worried that people wouldn't recognize his daughter, Maria Theresa, after he passed away. Just like in England, Henry was worried that people wouldn't
What?
respect his heirs.
I was just going to say, respect his heirs because of... What?
Because he had girls.
Oh, see, I was playing dumb there, guys, for a second. You guys remember Bloody Mary, Elizabeth? Come on.
That's right. So,
Poor Eddie. He was so young.
Eddie.
So young.
So these countries say, sure, we won't bother your country, don't worry. But as soon as he died, they did.
Of course.
Prussia's going to go to war with Austria.
Never
Frederick
trust a
wants their
lady
land.
to, keep the power. We're weak.
So Prussia would be in this area here, and they're going to go to war with Austria to steal their land. Prussia wins, gains a big chunk of it, and it's going to make Prussia stronger. And we'll get into Prussia a lot more as the year goes on. So that concludes
That was
Section 3.
Good summary. Great job.
It's Friday. Want
All
to get
right.
out here
I hope I
quick.
proved a little bit, guys, that, I know a little something.
You're smart as hell.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.